Lydia Phillips from the Empress Foundation, and I'm here with the Unorthodox team, and this is the Cross Media Program. We're here at the Art Society of Trinidad and Tobago, and this is the Let There Be Life joint art exhibit. I'm here with two of the artists for this exhibition. Your name is?
Eli Nicholas.
Sayada Ramdial.
Okay, so as I discussed earlier, this is a joint exhibition. Can one of you tell me how the idea of putting all three of your work together came about?
Well, I had met Sarah through a mutual friend named Gabriella, and I had also seen Sarah's work at upmarkets and so on, where she had her butterfly pieces on sale. So I knew of her work, and I met her at various exhibitions previously. So when she approached me to share an exhibition with her, I said, of course, yes, I would love to. And then from there, the same mutual friend, Gabby, put us on to Eli as a third person for the exhibition.
Okay. So, is it that all of your work complement each other, or were you given a specific theme and then you went with it?
All of our work complement each other, which made it easier when we were contemplating a theme to go with the theme, because we all have a strong sense of manipulating and creating patterns, identifying patterns, using them wisely and strongly in work. Yes, it varies a lot with the styles, but you can see a lot of key underlying elements in each of our pieces. So compatibility was one of the key things in three of us coming together.
All right, Eli. So both of us are wearing beautiful, gorgeous pins of yours. What is your preferred medium?
My preferred medium, I have no preferred medium. I work in all mediums. The reason for this is because I am a secondary school teacher, and ever since I was, as long as I could remember, anything I could find, I would use it as a tool for creation. I would take apart clocks and use gears. I would go get stones. I would even simple things as moss and chalk and crayons. I don't limit myself. What I do, however, is practice more of the traditional mediums: pastels, oils, acrylics, even a bit of batiking. So again, I am multidisciplinary, so no preferred medium. I really do enjoy using all.
All right, Sayada, what's yours?
Well, it also varies. Just like Eli, I like to use different mediums. I'd say it depends on the mood that strikes me or what it is I want to create. That would dictate whether I would use acrylic or pencil or, whatever. I am an illustrator by trade, so I do tend to use Photoshop a lot, so digital. And in terms of fine art, I do like to use acrylics a lot as well.
Okay. So what are your opinions on local artists using foreign inspiration when we have so much gorgeous wildlife and scenery here?
I think it depends on it's a very personal thing when you go to create a piece of art. So whether the inspiration strikes you from something that you have seen in nature or in Trinidad, or whether you go online and you see something from abroad that strikes you as, wow, this is amazing, and something clicks in your head. I think it depends on that as to whether you should go with a local inspiration or foreign inspiration. But personally, I don't see anything wrong with drawing inspiration from outside of your comfort zone. So that's my opinion on the matter.
And what about you?
I agree with Sayada, because in some instances, some people, what happens is that you will become desensitized to what is around you. You wake up and what's around you becomes norm. And then the interesting things, what interests you, you see it outside of your country, outside of your regular environment. So again, drawing inspiration from anywhere, I see no problem with it. Like currently, there are global issues that are inspiring me to create art to address those issues or to bring sensitization to those issues. So again, I don't see any problem with it. So again, yes, I agree with Sayada.
Okay, so I asked you both about your preferred medium, but do you have a preferred content type? Because I see like everything here is based in nature.
Yes, that's the first thing that inspires me is nature and from things I see in observation. So usually that is what I go to for immediate inspiration is just take a walk in the backyard, see how the light hits the plants in a certain way and stuff like that. Tends to inspire me, but then sometimes you just get an idea, something more abstract than that, and you would go off of that.
For me, my love of birds. I am an avid bird lover. I like to read about them. I love to watch them, particularly because there are lots of variety of birds where I live. One of my pieces is Shemuel is actually inspired by a bird that I consider my neighbor. So every morning when I wake up, I'm an early riser. I go outside, I see him, and sometimes I see him with his wife. So nature does inspire me quite a bit growing up in it because I live very close to Parliament. So that green, lush landscape, the variety of birds, learning to do bird songs, calling them and they're responding to me. That interaction has inspired a lot in me. And working on the theme for this exhibition at Daily Life, I look at them and I understand that and I relate it to the entire exhibition.
So you paint birds, you do bird calls, you consider birds your neighbors. Are you a bird?
No, I'm not a bird. I'm a beautiful creation of God who is inspired by birds.
All right, and now we have the third artist for this exhibition. Your name is?
Sarah Burrows.
Okay, so seeing that we are in what some might call band launch season, given the opportunity to create your own carnival costume, what do you think it might look like?
Get Lifted or Queen. You can see them actually because some of my paintings actually have that kind of costumish feel to them. Because I like to do mixed fashion design with my artwork. So I have two that if we went back into wearing lots of cloth, then they could be kind of our costumes.
Okay, and what about yours?
Given that I'm not very much involved in that, for just the sake of saying something, it might be probably a bird of some sort.
I knew that was coming. All right, so what are y'all's ideas on the switch from Carnival being a cultural showcase to more of a money-making enterprise or a business?
I personally believe that if it is indeed a money-making enterprise, if you have a product, the best idea is to make it original. And currently, we don't seem that very original because the mask we have here can get in almost any other country, go to Miami, London. So if we would go back into our culture, find what makes it more original, because why would I spend so much money to come to Trinidad when I could stay in my own place and play in the same masks and play in the same bikinis? So it's better that we find a way to make our culture unique, and that's my opinion on it. So rather than staying away from your culture just to make money, why don't you use your culture, bring out the uniqueness in it in order to make money? More, in the end of the day, you might make more. So that's my opinion.
Okay, and Mr. Birdman, what do you think?
I second what Sarah's saying. People, it can be done anywhere. What makes it unique is its background and context it's done in.
Okay, could you tell me some of the similarities and differences you see in each of your individual pieces, like all three of you?
Okay, first of all is process. I do believe most of us would have gone through a different process. Style, of course. Sayada's work is, particularly her watercolor work, has a lot of detail in it, as well as Sarah's work with the butterfly wings, the leaves, the foliage and everything. It's quite meticulous with detail. Whereas some of my work, like my larger flowers and even some of the birds, it tends to be a lot more spontaneous, tends to see a little bit more motion, a little bit more, not that the others lack, but more fluency in the design and the elements within it. Names as well. The choice of names for all of our pieces carries a weight of meaning within it. For example, my first piece starts with wisdom, and my last piece ends with Selah. And Selah in the Bible means to stop and ponder. So I sort of, well, didn't happen purposely, but it was made to my attention yesterday that my last piece, which means to stop and ponder, it actually urges you to reflect on what all my other pieces you just saw. So name, style, technique, process.
Okay, and what about you, Sarah?
I think even though that we all did Let There Be Life, that we all portrayed life, our take on it was different because if you notice with Sayada's work, she more focused on plant-based life. I focused on plants and animals, but say specifically like a common theme is butterflies and flowers also. And Eli, his work did more birds. He had a lot more birds. He had the flowers too, but birds. And I think, as he said with the style, my style is extremely intense, extremely bright, and extremely detailed. His own, he have a more looser finish, where you left more to stop and think about it. It gives a nice impression on your mind. And Sayada have a more of a gentle approach to art. Where you watch it and just the first thing that comes to your mind is the word lovely. So it's just the different characteristics of each artist you can see clearly in their artwork.
All right, so Eli, you touched on the idea that all three of you have different processes in creating your work. What is your process?
My process is I always visualize not necessarily what the final piece would turn out to be, but I always visualize process. Where do I start first, and where would I be closer to the end? So my first layer may be the undercolor or the underdrawing. Second layer might be more color, and depending on how it feels at the second layer, I might actually leave the piece there. So to me, that is again part of my process in the act of creation.
Okay, Sarah.
Well, I don't know exactly what is Sayada's or Eli's method of creating because I have not seen them in the process of it. But my works is typically I do two types of work. One that tells a story, where you could sit down and I could tell you an actual story of how it came to be. And one that is just a ongoing theme in my mind that I just run with it, I stick with it. So that's why I have some work that is like butterflies and flowers. Those are just some I just run with. I like those things, I paint that. And some will have like deep meanings behind them, like Queen and also Let There Be Life, because one tells the story of birth, the whole birthing process, and the other one, it makes reference to two queens that I admire. One is Alexander McQueen, because he did a dress for Hunger Games too, where you have the monarch butterflies actually forming the dress. So if you look at it, you would see it. And like, I love butterflies so much, and to see it in that different form, I wanted to incorporate it in my artwork, but I didn't want to do it the same way. That's why I added the blue to the blue and the green, two different species of butterflies. Also was based on I think I had a short period in life where I was obsessed with Queen Elizabeth I, and like she was such a strong woman, and she was like the first, she was one of the best leaders of England, and she avoided war, and her career, her political career is something that I admired, especially at a time that women didn't really have that much freedom or authority. So that's why you have that one that tells her story, but it have the other ones that I love to do details. So I would just go at it and just put in a set of details, trying. I guess some of these up there I was doing more realism, whereas before I would do more expressionism. So that's the kind of how I do my work. That's my process. I really cannot say for the other process because I haven't seen it.
All right, so in a recent discussion, it was said that Kitty's Carnival is the only type of mask left with creativity and thought put into it, right? Why do you think there is a difference between adult mass, which has basically a formulaic costume with just a difference in colors and beads and feathers, whereas the same people who grew up to make these adult costumes played Kiddies Carnival and saw the creativity put into it and saw all the thoughts and love and work?
Well, I think you're kind of forgetting King and Queen of Carnival. I think that is where the mass designers who deal with the adults, where they really is their place to shine. And with the rest of the band, they do the same bikini and beads and so on that we've seen over and over year after year, because that is what people want. It's not so much about the creativity of the costume that people are looking for. It's more about the all-inclusive and the music, and just the experience is more about the party then. But for the people who would be playing in the band, who really want that creative vibe, that would be more like the leader of the bands and the kings and queens, and that's where you really see the creativity. So I wouldn't say that it is lacking throughout the whole of adult carnival. I would say it's more within the band that the people, they don't get it as much in the costumes.
Okay, Sarah, what do you think?
I would have to definitely agree with Sayada. Also, you have to look at it this way. Okay, I have a band. Okay, I want to make money. How do I do this? The easiest thing to do is just press replay, just do what everybody else is doing. You make it very exclusive, charge a lot of money, you make a lot of money. So, Kiddies Carnival, on the other hand, you cannot put children in no clothes. That's probably not legal. So basically, you have to dress your children, and the criteria and the judging is different from what you would judge the adults. That's the culture of children's carnival is separate from the cultures of our adult. It's not acceptable for you to do that with children, but for adults, you just do whatever makes money. I don't think Kiddies Carnival is about making money as much as the adults carnival, so that's why it have more creative freedom.
But in our original carnival, it was about the culture. It was about creating and making. It had bats and peregrinades and little baby dolls and all those things. So why the change from wearing clothes to wearing a wire bra?
Because it's easier.
Okay.
Being creative is hard. You have to sit, you have to think of something that nobody has done before, or you have to change, find a new way to do something. That's what creativity is. Not everybody has that gift, and not everybody who has that gift has the money to put it into play. So what you do, okay, let's just make money and do whatever. It's a hustle, so that's what they do. That's my take on it, but I'm not really a follower of mass, and I don't personally know mass men or people who are behind the scenes, so I cannot say for sure, but that's what I think it may be.
Okay, so throughout the whole of this exhibition, we've noticed that most of the pieces here portray a brighter side of life. Not just Caribbean life, but life in general. So was that done on purpose, or did you just feel it in your spirit and do it?
Well, personally, I prefer to bring some joy to people. I prefer to focus more on the positives. And so I try to reflect that in my artwork. I don't want people to look at their wall and feel a little sad. So that's why I try to do some bright, cheerful, something that will make people brighten their day.
Okay. Sarah?
Well, I would have to say is that my work may look extremely bright and extremely pretty, but it doesn't mean that all the themes behind it is bright and pretty, because just like how the last drink, it actually signifies like stopping of drinking, and also it was the Last Supper where you had the I forget the technical term, but the Last Supper, the last drink that Jesus had before he was betrayed. So that's the theme in that now. Yes, it is positive, but it also shows a darker side of life. Same as you have Let There Be Life. That's the whole birthing process. That's why it's red, because red actually is blood, and blood is life. So even though you might see what you're like, oh, this is pretty, but it does have a meaning behind it that those, in these cases, is not exactly negative, but it does have a bit of intensity to them. But I have done actual pieces that were a lot darker, but just not for this exhibition.
Okay. All right. So we'd like to thank you for having us at your exhibit. It is all very gorgeous, and I might be toting home a piece or two. I am unorthodox.